Mara's day started before dawn, as it always did. She barely had time to savor her first sip of strong coffee before rushing out of their small apartment. Mara was a single mother, determined to ensure her son, Kito, had every luxury she never did growing up. She believed in hard work, and she pushed herself past the brink daily, leaving no time to question if she was doing it right. Climbing up the corporate ladder required long hours, frequent sacrifices, and, often, absence from home. But with each paycheck, she reassured herself that she was giving Kito the world. Kito, meanwhile, spent most of his mornings waking up to an empty house. His breakfast was always a quick bowl of cereal before he left for school alone. His mother's relentless hustle made his days predictable but cold. The only time he ever saw her during weekdays was when he caught a glimpse of her in the hallway late at night, exhausted and often too worn out for conversation. Kito kept his feelings bottled up. What else could he do? Over time, Kito got used to eating dinner by himself. The once comforting aroma of warm meals cooked by his mother had been replaced by takeout containers and frozen dinners. Every evening was a reflection of the same routine. Sometimes he would watch TV, hoping Mara might walk in and at least sit with him. Most of the time, she was either too tired or still working late hours. It didn't help that whenever she was home, her phone was ringing nonstop, with work demands chasing her even into their living room. Kito tried to stay hopeful. He filled the silence with school activities and imagined a day when he and his mother would laugh together again like they used to. But soon, hope turned to frustration. He started to feel invisible, unheard, and irrelevant. Each moment alone ate at his soul, chipping away bits of his boyish optimism. One Friday afternoon, Kito noticed a group of older boys hanging around near his school. They were laughing loudly, their words peppered with bravado and excitement. He couldn't help but be intrigued. They seemed to have the freedom and camaraderie he craved. When one of the boys, Jaren, caught Kito's eye, he waved him over. The group welcomed Kito with open arms, offering him the attention he desperately sought. They didn't ask questions or demand anything. All they required was loyalty, and Kito was eager to give it. For once, he felt seen and valued. What started with harmless adventures quickly spiraled into riskier activities, but Kito didn't care. His new friends provided a sense of belonging and excitement that he'd longed for. Kito's behavior began to change. He became distant, secretive, and withdrawn. Mara noticed the shift, but convinced herself that it was just a phase. After all, she was busy climbing the corporate ladder and barely had time to process the small cracks forming in their relationship. But behind the scenes, Kito was slipping deeper into trouble. The group introduced him to a darker world, a world that thrived on reckless behavior, defiance, and blurred moral lines. The more involved he became, the more detached he grew from his mother. He stopped waiting for her at night, stopped looking for her approval, and stopped caring if she noticed him coming home late or not. His mother's absence was a void he filled with every reckless act, numbing the loneliness that had become his constant companion. One night, Kito came home with bruises and a broken phone. He brushed off Mara's questions, mumbling that it was just a school fight. But Mara's instincts screamed at her. Something was very wrong. She tried to push for more information, but Kito shut her out completely. He locked himself in his room and blasted music to drown out the world and his own turbulent thoughts. Mara felt a pang of guilt, but quickly buried it under a mountain of work tasks. She was doing this for him, wasn't she? Mara's attempt to convince herself that everything was fine didn't last long. The signs were everywhere: missed homework assignments, tension with teachers, and more absences than ever before. But every time she tried to address it, Kito recoiled. He was slipping away right before her eyes, and she didn't know how to pull him back. Kito's group escalated their activities, dragging him further into dangerous territory. What once seemed like harmless fun turned into crime, and Kito was in too deep to back out. He lied to his mother, crafted stories to cover his tracks, and gradually became unrecognizable even to himself. Nights spent with his new friends blurred into chaos and lawlessness, and each step led him further away from the boy he once was. Meanwhile, Mara threw herself even deeper into her work, now convinced that her success would somehow make everything okay. But money wasn't healing the wounds that loneliness had carved into Kito's heart. It wasn't filling the hollow ache he felt whenever he thought about the family connection he never had. The day Mara got the call from the police station was the day her world began to crumble. Kito had been caught in a theft, part of a string of crimes involving his newfound group. The shame and shock were overwhelming, but even worse was the realization that she hadn't known what was happening in her son's life. Standing outside the station, Mara's hands trembled. Where had she gone wrong? All those long hours and sacrifices were supposed to give him a better life. When Mara saw Kito through the glass, she hardly recognized him. There was defiance in his eyes, but beneath it was pain, a pain she had neglected to see. The weeks that followed were filled with strained silence and painful conversations. Mara finally made a decision. She had to put her job on hold. No more late nights. No more being a stranger to her own son. Their relationship would not be healed overnight, but Mara vowed to try. The journey would be hard, but for the first time, she was ready to give Kito what he truly needed: her time, attention, and love. The first week of Mara's leave from work was more challenging than she anticipated. She wasn't sure how to bridge the wide chasm between herself and Kito. Every attempt at conversation was met with silence or half-hearted responses. Despite the friction, she remained determined. She focused on being present, making meals, showing up for school meetings, and listening even when Kito refused to talk. One evening, Mara decided to share her own struggles. She spoke of her fears, her ambition to give him a better life, and the guilt she carried for missing out on his childhood. For the first time in years, Kito looked at her without hostility. Something shifted. Perhaps it was the realization that his mother wasn't perfect, but she was trying. Kito's old group wasn't pleased with his growing distance. Jaren, who had taken him under his wing, reached out to entice him back. Promises of freedom, excitement, and rebellion whispered in Kito's ears like a seductive melody. He struggled with the pull of his past life, torn between the thrill of recklessness and the fragile bond he was slowly building with his mother. One night, Jaren cornered Kito after school, pressuring him to return. Kito felt trapped. A rush of adrenaline coursed through him, and he almost gave in. But then he remembered his mother's tearful confession, the cracks in her voice, the pain in her eyes. With clenched fists, he made a decision and walked away, leaving Jaren fuming in his wake. The next few weeks were marked by small victories. Mara and Kito began spending more time together. They played board games, cooked meals, and even took long walks in the park. Though Kito was guarded, he opened up little by little. Mara learned about his interests, his dreams, and even his regrets. She was surprised to find how much she didn't know about her son. However, healing wasn't linear. There were setbacks, moments when Kito lashed out in anger or retreated into silence. Mara had to remind herself to be patient. She sought advice from counselors, joined support groups, and read every book she could find on rebuilding relationships with troubled teens. Kito noticed her efforts, and though he wouldn't admit it, it gave him hope. Jaren and his group weren't willing to let Kito go without a fight. One night, Kito returned home with a threatening note stuffed in his backpack. He tried to hide it from Mara, but she found it while tidying up. Anger and fear coursed through her. She confronted Kito, demanding to know what was going on. The confrontation escalated until Kito, overwhelmed, admitted everything: the crimes, the threats, and his fear of retribution. Mara's heart broke all over again, but this time, she wasn't paralyzed by guilt. Together, they reported the threats to the authorities. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. For the first time, Kito felt a sense of relief, a small, fragile hope that he could truly leave his past behind. Not everyone was happy to see Kito trying to change. At school, he was ostracized by his old friends and treated with suspicion by others. Rumors swirled, and Kito felt isolated all over again. Mara encouraged him to stay strong, reminding him that rebuilding a life would take time. In the midst of the chaos, Kito met new friends. One of them, Riel, was a quiet but determined student who had faced his own challenges. Their friendship was slow to form but genuine. Riel introduced Kido to music, a passion that soon became an outlet for his emotions and a source of healing. Riel convinced Kido to perform at a school concert. Mara was hesitant, worried that Kido might falter under the pressure. But he insisted, saying he needed to prove something to himself and to everyone who doubted him. The performance was nerve-wracking, but when Kido stood on stage and played the first notes, the weight of his fears melted away. Music became his voice, his rebellion, and his redemption. Mara watched from the audience, tears streaming down her face. In that moment, she realized that her son wasn't just surviving, he was fighting to reclaim himself. Jaren resurfaced with a final threat, cornering Kido outside his music practice. He demanded that Kido return to the group or face consequences. Kido, trembling but resolute, refused. Jaren's fury boiled over, and a scuffle broke out. The noise drew attention, and within minutes, teachers and bystanders intervened. Jaren was arrested, but the encounter left Kido shaken. He realized that breaking free from his past would always be a battle. That night, Mara held Kido tightly, promising never to let him face danger alone again. She reflected on her journey, the mistakes, the lost time, and the lessons learned. She vowed to prioritize their relationship, to listen, and to be there in every way she could. Kido, for the first time, believed her. Mara and Kido began attending therapy together. It was grueling, emotional work, but it helped them understand each other on a deeper level. Mara confronted her obsession with financial security, recognizing that she had been trying to escape her own childhood poverty. Kido confronted his feelings of abandonment, learning to express his pain without resorting to self-destructive behaviors. Over the next few months, life stabilized. Kido focused on school, music, and rebuilding his identity. Mara returned to work part-time, but set firm boundaries to ensure she was present for her son. Their home was no longer a place of silence, but one of conversation, laughter, and growth. Life wasn't perfect. There were arguments, temptations, and moments of doubt. But Mara and Kido faced each challenge together, learning to trust and support one another. Kido's music continued to be his refuge, and Mara took pride in his accomplishments. The day Kido graduated from high school was a milestone neither of them thought they'd reach. Mara beamed with pride as he walked across the stage. It wasn't just a celebration of his academic achievements, it was a testament to their resilience, their healing, and their love. Kido applied to music school, determined to turn his passion into a career. Mara supported him every step of the way, even when fear whispered that the world could still hurt him. She knew she couldn't protect him from everything, but she could be there for him, no matter what. Kido's past re-emerged when an old friend tried to pull him back into the group's dangerous activities. This time, Kido stood his ground, refusing to be swayed. He reported the incident to the authorities and sought support from his friends and family. It was a defining moment, a testament to how far he had come. Kido's band was invited to perform at a local music festival. It was a major opportunity, and Mara helped him prepare. She watched with pride as he poured his soul into the performance, captivating the audience. Music had become his strength, a way to express his journey, pain, and growth. Mara and Kido's bond grew stronger with each passing day. They spent time reminiscing, laughing, and planning for the future. The scars of the past were still there, but they no longer defined them. They had learned to forgive, to move forward, and to cherish every moment together. Kido reached out to a few of his old friends, offering forgiveness and support. Some accepted, while others rejected him. He learned that he couldn't change everyone, but he could change himself. Forgiveness was freeing, not just for others, but for him too. Mara received an offer to return to her old job, but this time with flexible hours. She accepted, knowing she had found a balance between work and family. Kido encouraged her, proud of the strong woman she had become. Together, Mara and Kido visited the places that held painful memories. They talked about their journey, their mistakes, and their growth. It was a cathartic experience, allowing them to release the weight they had carried for so long. Mara realized that love wasn't just about providing financial security. It was about being present, listening, and nurturing. She promised herself to never forget that lesson again. Quito began mentoring at-risk youth, sharing his story and using music to connect with others. He wanted to give back, to help others find hope just as he had. Mara and Quito stood together at the music festival, watching the sunset. Their journey wasn't over, but they had come so far. They understood that life would always have challenges, but they were ready to face them together. For the first time in years, they felt whole, a mother and son who had fought for each other and found a love that could not be broken.